All right. And welcome to Democrats Live, everybody. How you doing out there today? All right. Awesome. Look, we got a very special show, and I'm so glad we were hanging out upstairs talking over strategery, and our chair, Tom Perez, is with us tonight. Yeah, give it up for Tom.
Thank you. I'm the honorary Minnesotan in the house tonight.
That's right. And you actually are kind of an honorary Minnesotan. You want to tell that story real quick?
Well, I almost moved to Minnesota back in the 80s, for the fact that the Attorney General's office didn't hire my wife.
What?
I would have gone there in
Clearly
1989.
Reagan didn't hire your wife?
Skip Humphrey. Skip Humphrey, that's who it was.
Okay. That's right.
Very nice guy.
Oh, the Attorney General of Minnesota. Okay, I got you.
Yes.
Never mind.
And what about Al Franken, everybody?
All right.
We just call him the giant around here, giant of the Senate. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Democrats Live. Welcome to our weekly show where we bring voices of the Democratic Party straight to you, straight to our live stream audience. Today, we have the biggest in-studio audience I've ever seen, Tom. I mean, you guys are awesome tonight, right?
Yeah. We don't have a New York Times best-selling author here all the time. That's clearly the reason.
I've seen bigger live audiences.
So look, you guys. So we're streaming live at live.democrats.org, and where people can go to sign up to take action and to donate. Remember, we need your activity. We need you to be involved. This is a moment for activism, and also we're fighting like nobody's business to save the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. We need your assistance. We need you to make calls. So go to makecalls.democrats.org/ACA. That's makecalls.democrats.org/ACA. Call your senator and tell them that you do not want 22 million Americans to lose their health care. You let them know. Can we count on you guys to do that?
Yeah.
All right. And lastly, Democrat summer has been slamming. Tom, you were at the training last week, right?
Amen.
Yeah,
Over
man.
100 people.
We had people. What I think 120 folks from 43 states. Young fellow named Ryan Doyle is just crushing it out there. Give yourselves a hand for everybody who participates in Resistance Summer. Yeah. It's been great. Now look, if you want to be a part of Resistance Summer, make sure that you get yourself. Let me see your cell phones. Pull them out. Pull them out. All right, and go to 43367, 43367. One more time, 43367, and type in the word resist, RESIST.
They know resist.
Well, we want to make sure everybody knows resist because it's the time of resistance, you guys. So if you do that, we'll give you updates, regular updates.
See, for me, instead of spelling resist, I give the number again.
Well, let's give the number again. We got to concede to our
43367.
There you go. Let's hear it for Al, everybody.
Wait, we don't. Okay, let's not interrupt it with so much clapping. We only have so much time.
All right. So Al,
don't you agree? No. No. Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So Al, you're in the battle to fight for health care.
Yep.
What's the deal, man? Are you guys gonna be able to pull it out, or what do you think?
Well, it's really up to them in the sense that they have to get 50 votes, and they've got a problem there, which doesn't seem like they can. See, basically, they've been talking for about 7 years about repealing the Affordable Care Act and replacing it, and I think they assumed that Hillary would win. And they didn't
That's what
have
Senator Toomey said.
Yeah. Did he say that?
He said we didn't expect to win, so now we have to govern, and we don't know what we're doing.
But you think
that's effectively what he said.
You think in 7 years you go like, maybe one of these times we'll win, and we will have to think of an idea to replace this with. But they went, no, it's too easy just to demagogue against the thing. And then, of course, they won, and they have not thought about. I mean, I know my Republican colleagues, and they have not put much thought. There are Republican colleagues of mine who don't know much about health care. And they put these 13 all men together and came up with something that's just a travesty. Basically taking away health care from people who need it the most to give a tax cut to people who need it the least. And this is why I think it's now 17%. There are different polls. Some are worse, but I think it's
12.
Yeah, I've seen that. But let's say 17 because
Bottom 17.
because I got a joke with it. Because 17% is the exact number of Americans who have said they have personally seen a ghost.
Wow.
And I think there's a lot of overlap
So,
in
well,
those numbers.
so-
But
yeah.
the point is that people are against this. And, I mean, Trump's numbers are still hovering around 35, 40% around his base. But even his base knows that this is atrocious. And I'm co-chairman of the Rural Health Caucus. I go around our state to the rural parts of our state. And basically, Minnesotans are really afraid of this. And
What is, I asked you beforehand, as you think about this, you think about it through the lens of real people. What have you been hearing? Are there stories that stick out to you, Senator, in your travels across
there are
the
so
state?
many stories. We had a young man, we had a Medicaid event, and we had a young man who was born 15 weeks early, and he weighed about 1.5 pounds when he was born. And he was this young man was born in the Twin Cities, and they took him to Mayo. And at Mayo, they said we don't know how to handle this, and they sent him back to Gillette Children's Hospital, which is in Minneapolis, and they saved his life. But they spent $1 million in the first day, and he had cerebral palsy and hydrocephalus, and he's had 37 surgeries since, and now he spoke. He had a walker. He's had surgeries on his legs. He had hydrocephalus, which meant that he had water on the brain. And he's had a shunt very early on. He just took his first college course.
Wow.
And got an A-. I told him, this was an event where we had a lot of people talk, and I told him he was the one I was least worried about because he's like the most resilient person in the world. But his mom said he wouldn't be here if it weren't for Medicaid.
Sure.
And then in rural Minnesota, I went to Perham, Minnesota, which is up in sort of about central northwest a little bit, and we had a round table at a rural hospital. Rural hospitals in Minnesota, since the Affordable Care Act, have been doing better because there's much less uncompensated care. People going in the emergency room or getting and not having insurance because of the expansion of Medicaid, and we've seen those hospitals have been able to hire more people. Now they're very worried about closing or having to lay off a lot of people. Sure. Very often the hospitals are the #1 employer in rural counties. At this one, we had a woman say, was in tears. She said, "My mother gets home health care, and that's the only thing that is able to keep her in the home." And she said, if this bill goes through Medicaid, that's right, thank you, through Medicaid, and if this bill goes through, that'll be taken away, and it will be. And she said, my husband and I both work. And through tears, she said, I don't know what we're going to do with my mom.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can then, okay, we'll put her, she'll go to a nursing home, which she does. She likes to be in her home. But 64%, I think, of Medicaid's spending is for people in nursing homes. Or actually, 64% of people in nursing homes
are funded by Medicaid.
Yeah, people don't realize that. And except a lot of people do, and a lot of people in rural Minnesota do understand that. I went to a nursing home where a very conservative CEO, that's what I surmised, said that we may have to close down if this happens. He was dead. They were all dead set against it. This is, it's wrong, and it was scored at 22 million. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
22 million
CBO
people
score.
losing, and premiums would shoot up for people that are older. And then now they're playing around with this cruise amendment, and it is really bad because basically it'll be the end of protecting people with pre-existing conditions. Because they say insurance companies will be able to put out any policy they want as long as the insurance company also has a ACA compliant plan, which they won't advertise. But even so, this means that you'll start to get the people in the ACA compliant plans will all be people who have pre-existing conditions, and those risk pools will be so high that the costs will be astronomical. So this is the same as it used to be, which is if you had a pre-existing condition, you were priced out. You could not afford to get the coverage that you needed, the essential health benefits that now go with every plan under the Affordable Care Act, which protects people with pre-existing conditions. This is sick. What they're doing is sick.
When they asked your colleague Ted Cruz about why he found this amendment so attractive, he said because his core problem with the Affordable Care Act has been that people who are healthy and have to pay premiums where some of the money will go to people who are sick and need extra help.
That's what he said.
That's what. But his core problem is that it's going to help people. That we're all going to be in this together, helping each other as a society, which is more candor than I gave him credit for. But I'm glad at least he said it.
Well, I don't think he understands really what the concept of insurance really should be.
Right. Yeah, that was what he said.
But no, you if you're going to, this is what, when I was running for the Senate against Norm Coleman in 2008, he kept saying in our debates that Minnesota had the best healthcare system. Not Minnesota. He said America, United States, had the best healthcare system in the world because of Mayo Clinic. And Mayo Clinic offers great health care and maybe the best in the world, except for Gillette Children's Hospital for kids. But that's not a system. We didn't have a health care system. We had different systems. T.R. Reid wrote about health care, and he said that we had different systems. If you're Medicare, Medicaid, you're in the Canadian system, single payer. If you were in the VA or the military, you're in the British system, socialized medicine. If you got it from your employer, as most Americans do, you're in the German system. If you don't have insurance, you're in the Cambodian system. And ACA was about getting people from the Cambodian system, people who weren't covered, getting them into Medicaid, the single payer, the Canadian system, or into them buying it on the market, and that's what the exchanges are about. This is going to unravel all of that.
Well, hey, let me tell you, we got to talk a little bit about net neutrality, which I know you've been a leader on. But before we wrap up, Tom, I just wanted to throw one quick thing out there. We're right now in the middle of an effort we call Resistance Summer. It's an intensive engagement that we're doing all over the country. How critical is it to do organizing this summer so that we can protect the Affordable Care Act and protect an open internet and a whole bunch of other things that Americans really care about?
Our resistance has been our biggest force moving forward. And we have to not only resist, we have to persist. I look at what's happening across America, and January 20th was an undeniably significant day. But January 21st was far more significant. And what we've seen, and I think what has sustained these efforts in both the House and the Senate, and what will carry the day, is what Senator Franken has been talking about.
That's right.
That is real people. Public policy is about real people. And what they're trying to do violates the Hippocratic Oath of policymaking. And what we've been doing at the DNC with our Resistance Summer is getting out there and making house calls and knocking on doors and talking to people. And,
I think it's made a huge difference on this health care bill. And I think that they're coming back from just this week, even though most Republicans laid low, the ones that did here, I think Susan Collins heard a lot of support for her position. And I think that people got the message Republicans got the message during this week that this bill, this is absolutely, and through town halls leading up to this. Right. So there's all kinds of, there's calls and they listen to calls. So if you're watching this from a state that has a Republican senator, call and email.
Make calls. Go to make calls.
Yeah, and not only do we resist and persist, but we have to insist. I was just channeling Jesse Jackson.
I like it.
I was just trying something there. But we have to
Chairman
insist.
Tom, before you wrap up, any final?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you one thing on a different topic, because I don't think we can complete this show without talking about the latest news.
Oh, my goodness.
From Trump land. Now, we heard from Donald Trump months ago that they never spoke to the Russians. We now see the latest news, which was an email to Donald Trump Jr. and his effusiveness about getting information.
If this is what it seems.
Yes. I mean, and this is in the aftermath of President Trump meeting with President Putin and saying what an honor it was to meet with a person who has violated human rights, who attempted to
he didn't
disrupt.
Put it that way, did he?
I mean,
and a closed-door meeting.
And then they offered to have a joint cybersecurity task force. And the first thing I thought of is it's too bad that Saturday Night Live is off the air for the summer, because they would have had a field day with that cybersecurity task force with Putin and Trump.
They have to take the summer off.
Yeah.
They do. But no, it's, what's interesting about this is that they just have to keep restating what they said, because this is now actually literally cooperating or getting an email saying, like, we have someone who's a lawyer who is information from the Russian government's continuing effort to help your father, and you need to meet. You should meet with her. And if this is what it sounds like, I love it, is what he said. And then and not only that, but he comes with Kushner, and he comes with Manafort, the head of the campaign, and so now you got the son and the son-in-law. I think that this may end up getting down to what did the president know and when did his son-in-law tell him, is I think what this may end up as. But this is obviously extremely serious stuff. I think we have the right guy in Mueller doing this, so we should let it develop. He will find the facts. I think if anyone will, he will, and let it go where it may. But we now know that they were very open to working with the Russians to interfere in the election, and I think that was a very disturbing thing. But we got to talk about net neutrality.
We're coming up right now. Hey, let's hear it for Tom Perez, everybody. Chairman Tom Perez. Thanks a lot, Tom. Tom has been traversing the country, fighting every day for democratic values. Thank you, Tom Perez, everybody. Now, give a hand to Jessica Gonzalez. Jessica is from the Free Press and has come to talk to us about the importance of net neutrality. This is a political matter, and of course, you, Senator, have been on the forefront of making sure we have a free and open internet. You want to set the stage for us, Jess? By the way, come on, greet Jess. Jess, why do we need a free and open internet?
Thanks so much for that gracious introduction. So, net neutrality, for those who need a little catch up, is the idea that once we get on the internet, we control our own experience. and that internet service providers like Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T can't tell us where to go. They can't block content. They can't slow down access to certain websites. And they can't make special deals behind closed doors, as they've said they'd like to do in open court proceedings, to give preferential treatment to websites and applications that are willing to pay more to go faster to reach audience. And this is incredibly critical. It's critical not just for small business owners who can't afford more to pay more to access their customers, but incredibly important for those who are part of the resistance, who are organizing for justice, who are organizing for a kinder, more compassionate society, who are organizing for justice in the healthcare debate. And something that's very near and dear to my heart is organizing for racial justice. People of color have, for centuries, been under and misrepresented in mainstream media. And the open internet has allowed us to tell our own stories in our own voices and not let anyone tell us who we are. And so the fight goes on. We had a great victory back in 2015.
Sure did.
Where the FCC codified net neutrality. It grounded net neutrality in Title II of the Communications Act, which is the only legally sound way. We won a resounding victory in court. We won on every single issue. The internet service providers kept appealing and appealing, trying to pull back that order, and they lost every single time. And so this is the law of the land. It should be the law of the land. And we're a nonpartisan organization, actually. At Free Press Action Fund, we're working to ensure that regular people have a voice in the media and technology.
Free Press has been a huge part of the fight for net neutrality, and part of what really helped get that open internet the decision by the FCC was that about 4 million people emailed in comments to the FCC, and we need to do that again. Tomorrow is a net neutrality day of action.
All right, I'm glad you said that. A little bit about what should people be doing on this net neutrality day of action? Senator, Jess, either one of you guys?
Well, last I saw on the Battle for the Net website, we had over 80,000 websites, internet companies, regular people signing up to take action. We know that companies and nonprofit organizations are educating their members and their customers about this, asking them to send comments to the FCC. You can do that through going to battleforthenet.com.
Is that part of the day of action tomorrow?
That is part of the day of action.
So we want to get a lot of comments. Will you guys be willing to write it through comments? Senator Al?
Yeah, Jessica explained a little bit, but one thing I want to say is that net neutrality isn't just for people who want to go online fighting for justice. It's for people who want to go online fighting against justice.
That's right.
I mean, it is for that's the whole point. Net neutrality. It treats content on the internet neutrally. And the fact of the matter is that has been the architecture of the internet from the very beginning, since it was it's invented by DARPA. And the
government
Defense
agency.
Advanced Research Projects Agency, part of the Defense Department, actually. Now, so we funded it, and but let me explain why this is so important for innovation. Before YouTube, there was a thing called Google Video, and Google Video was not very good. So 3 guys over a pizzeria in San Mateo, California, developed YouTube. And because YouTube was allowed to travel at the same speed or get to you at the same speed as Google Video, people were able to sample YouTube and they liked it better. And a couple of years later, I guess it was, Google bought YouTube for $1.65 billion for these guys who'd worked over a pizzeria. That buys a lot of pizza.
Yeah.
But the point is that they did this innovation because they traveled at the same speed, because it was allowed to get you at the same speed. It's the same way that someone in Duluth, Minnesota, a kid at the University of Minnesota Duluth, in a dorm, can start a business or start a website or start Facebook or start. That's where the innovation and the energy of the internet comes from. And this really doesn't serve anybody except for the ISPs, the internet service providers. No one benefits from this. Big businesses hate this. Every business, every manufacturer has specifications for the stuff they manufacture if you want to buy it online. Everything's online. So this is small businesses, internet startups, everything online, but all the way to banks. They don't want to have to pay more to have customers. This only helps Verizon, Comcast, AT&T, the big internet service providers. So this is, and for some reason, Ajit Pai.
I was going to go there. Tell us about the chairman and where he's coming from.
He's the chairman of the FCC now, and he's the chairman because we have a Republican president. And this guy is completely hostile to net neutrality. And they want to overturn what was put in place, Title II. And Title II categorized, and the courts said that this is the only way to get net neutrality is by invoking Title II of the Communications Act, which is labeling the internet as a telecommunications technology, which it is. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. And so this would undo that. What they're trying to do now is undo what was achieved a couple years ago, and we need people tomorrow especially making their voices heard. So we need everyone who's watching to, and I want you there to go to the FCC. How do they do that? Do we know what the website is, or do we have it on the screen?
Battleforthenet.com is a really easy way to submit comments.
Battleforthenet.com. All right, we'll put it up there. So what about the folks who they might not be trying to fight for justice or start a business. They might just want to be able to order their medicine over the internet. I mean, if it wasn't...
or go to, their local hardware store, which isn't the Ace hardware store. Can you imagine if, only chains can get to you faster? Right. And so it hurts small business, but I'm sure Ace Hardware wants net neutrality, too.
Of course.
To tell you the
Why
truth.
would they want to pay more? I mean, because for sure they'd be
and that
charged.
cost will be passed on to
the consumer. Absolutely.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Congressman. We recently had a couple of public forums where we heard from folks about why this issue matters to them. And one gentleman talked about he was struggling with mental health issues, physical health issues. He could not find someone who could provide mental health services in his language.
Right.
And he was able to find someone in Fresno. He was in LA because of the open internet and because the site was able to allow him to move at the same speed as the other content traveling on the web.
Absolutely. And, just to make your point about, the idea of fighting for justice or against justice or whatever, BLM, Black Lives Matter, started as a hashtag, sort of a creature of the internet in many ways.
Totally.
Not that they're that now, but that's the way, when the founders started it, that's the way it started. And so it really is important for so many important ways.
This is a First Amendment issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a basic First Amendment issue. And there's nothing more important.
Absolutely. So tomorrow, go to
battleforthenet.com.
Yeah, and for sure. So, Heather, what do we got for the folks dialing in tonight, sharing some questions?
Yes, we had a lot of questions tonight.
Well, let's hear some.
The first one comes from Facebook, from Jason and Cynthia, who are from Minnesota, actually.
We did not plant those, you guys.
They say, clearly, the GOP plan panders to third-party insurance companies and isn't focused on the American people. Knowing this, what steps can we take to improve the ACA? What can we take to the table to be a bipartisan option once the GOP bill fails for an alternative bill that favors the American people instead of insurance companies?
Well, of course, we hope it fails, but I don't want to assume anything. But this is a very good point. I hope that we do what we should have been doing all along, which is work to improve the ACA, which is in place, and they have been doing everything they can to undermine it. They have, from the very beginning,
Yep.
you know, the states that have expanded Medicaid are doing much better. The Supreme Court kind of, you know, shot the ACA in the foot by ruling that out, that every state had to accept the expansion. And when you expand Medicaid, then the private insurance that you get in the state is cheaper, because that private insurance doesn't have to cover people that come into the emergency room not covered. But we need to address the exchanges. There are a number of things, risk corridors, reinsurance that have been taken away, cost sharing, which the president has been playing with and creating tremendous uncertainty in the market. We need to just say, no, stop that. We're going to reinstate these things. And a public option, I believe,
Absolutely.
that means that every county in the country would have an option.
Sure.
So right now, the Republicans are saying to us, "Hey, there's some counties, and they're almost all in red states,
Sure.
that don't have coverage," and that's again because they've been doing everything they can to undermine the exchanges. Well, if you have a public option, then everyone will at least have one option. So that's very important. Also, then we have to address the cost of pharmaceuticals. And that's something that I have a very comprehensive bill. It includes the ideas of a lot of Democrats in the Senate. And we've actually started to have hearings on pharmaceuticals in the Health Committee. But we should do all of this through the committee process and in the open, because then you'll have witnesses and you'll have experts, and we'll actually be out in the open discussing what we need to do to make sure that not only do we strengthen what's in place now, but that we build on it, and that Minnesota is a state that leads the country in value of care, and that's because we have done a tremendous amount of delivery reform in our state, and so we need to be talking about how to do that, and not reward, get away from a fee for service,
Right.
and get more into coordinated care like we do in Minnesota.
You know, one of the things I like about what you're saying, Al, is that us Democrats have not been against working with whomever to try to make the Affordable Care Act a better, stronger piece of legislation. But I'll never forget a few years ago that Ted Cruz shut the government down for 16 days because we would not repeal the Affordable Care Act. You know, one of the things I want folks to know is that this is not some sort of both sides are doing it kind of situation. No, they are trying to repeal it. We've been open to trying to improve it, but we just haven't had any cooperation.
No, I mean, they have not lifted a finger to make the ACA work, obviously. They've done everything they can to weaken it. And if this fails, as I hope it does, and as the person writing in does, then finally, maybe we can work together, because there are people in the Republican Party who Bill Cassidy from Louisiana is a doctor who worked in a clinic of people for people who couldn't afford care. And he's a good guy, and there are a lot of, you know, and I do hope that this gets to the Health Committee and to the Finance Committee, and we finally have hearings from people who actually work in healthcare and who have been studying it, and so that we can address the weaknesses that are in the current system.
Good. No questions, Heather? Anybody else up?
We do. We have another question on healthcare. This comes from Diana in Arizona,
Thank you, Diana.
who says, why is dental coverage never mentioned when we're discussing healthcare? Dental health is vital to our medical health.
It is. I mean, and we do cover dental in kids, but it's very important, and your dental health is very tied to your physical health.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is something we could do if we could get some cooperation, and thanks for raising that issue, Diana. Let's keep going. And by the way, you can chime in here, Ms. Gonzalez. We want you to be involved.
I'm
in
no
this
healthcare expert. People should have it.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Like a lot of things. Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, this question comes from Joe from New York, who said, how does Trump have the ability to ask states for voter information without congressional approval?
Ooh, interesting question. Well, he asked this fake voter fraud commission that he set up by Mr. Korbach, who is well known in Kansas to promote photo ID and other forms of voter suppression, has not been getting very much cooperation. You all recall right after he won the election in the Electoral College, he began to say he lost the popular vote because of voter fraud. And so this is now the manifestation, this voter fraud commission.
3 to 5 million illegal
immigrants,
every one of whom voted for Hillary. And then when he said we have to investigate this, it reminded me of when O.J. was acquitted and said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life looking for the killer.
Yeah, like that.
I saw this morning that ACLU was actually suing.
Well, good. They ought to. But this is really the institutionalization of voter suppression. It should be resisted.
You're right. That's what this is, and it's really pernicious, and we can't. And fortunately, most states have said no.
Well, Republican and Democrat states. I mean, Steve Simon, who's our Secretary of State in Minnesota, says, no way, you can't have our voter information. But did you even had some Republicans who said, no, we can't have it? And you've gotten the same response in the South and the North. And I think one state, actually, there was a Secretary of State who was going to comply, but the people called in and said, don't you give our information away. And the guy had to back down. So I would say this is a good thing to resist. And at this point, I'd like to point out, I've had some folks as I go around the country say, Keith, we don't want to just resist. We want to hear about what Democrats are for. And I agree with that. But I will say there's some things we must resist. And institutionalizing voter suppression is one of them. Yeah. And taking away health care from millions is another one of them. And so by all means, we set forth a positive vision, but there's some things we're just going to have to fight about, and I think democracy is clearly one of those things. What else we got, Heather?
Piggybacking off of that a little bit, this question comes from Heidi on Twitter, who said, it isn't a lack of democratic message, it's trying to be heard over the monolithic GOP propaganda machine. How can you fight that?
That's a good question. What about, how can we fight the GOP machine? Is there a way that an individual can, send out 140 characters to their best friends and, anything that could help us do that?
Again, as a nonpartisan here, I will answer that in a nonpartisan way. Look, for many years, the rich and powerful have controlled what we hear in the media, right? Because of net neutrality, we are able to get out different kinds of stories. And so get online, tell your story, tell it in unique and creative ways, and you will be heard.
Yep. This is why consolidation in the media is also something I've worked against. We need as many voices out there, and I think there are. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if I totally agree with who wrote in. I think that in this country, we've sort of self-sorted and people get their information, they choose to get their information from places that confirm their own bias. And so and we've never had a president calling basically the entire news industry fake news and the enemy of the people. Yeah. That is really scandalous as far as I'm concerned. But there will be people that turn to the Breitbart, that information, and watch Fox on television and listen to Rush Limbaugh on radio. And yes, it's hard to reach those people if they don't want to reach out and get information from elsewhere. And so it's reinforcing and reinforcing, and I think that's too bad. I think we do have a real division and a self-sorting, not even totally by where you choose your media, but also geographically. I think that people are living more with people who agree with I mean, we're in Minneapolis, turns out to be a pretty democratic city, and there are areas.
DFL, y'all.
Yeah. And, you know, but I wish that there was a little bit more. This is why we need things like hearings. So that so that people can hear, like, have a hearing where you have witnesses on both sides and people can discuss things.
That's right.
Instead of having 13 guys go off in a closet. They didn't go in a closet. They went into I don't know where they met, actually.
An undisclosed location, no doubt. So, hey, Heather, who else we have up?
We have another question. This one's kind of a bigger one from Karen in Nevada, who said, what do you think will happen with the investigation into collaboration with Russia?
I have a pretty good answer for that, which is I don't know. But what I do know is that Bob Mueller is trusted by pretty much everybody who knows him. And I believe that he has the authority to find this out. And I think I'm sure he will. And he will track the facts down, get the facts, and then at that point I think that he will make a determination whether any laws have been broken, and these investigations begin to have a life of their own, and sometimes they turn people, and sometimes I believe, in other words, what I'm saying is I believe we're going to find out the truth at the end of this. I don't think we should be in any hurry to jump to conclusions. I mean, or, you know, people have their suspicions, but I think they should be confirmed by the actual facts.
You know, Al, I couldn't agree more. I think we should be deliberate in the pursuit of the facts. But I will say this. I've had a few folks call me and contact me and say, look, man, this Russia thing is just a partisan thing. It's just a distraction. You need to focus on healthcare. And I've had to argue them that, no, the Russia thing does matter, and it is critical that we get to the bottom of it, because if true, and I'm happy to believe that it's not if the facts lead us there, but if true, a hostile foreign power was...
Well, that we actually kind of know.
Well,
that we know. I wasn't saying that.
I'm addressing the point that it does matter, and we must focus on it. The American people have the right to have a government that reflects their best interests, and you should know that when a country who doesn't uphold press freedom, that doesn't believe in religious tolerance, that does not believe in democratic institutions, that is ruled by some oligarchs, is trying to influence our country, then they're not doing it out of goodness of their hearts, right? They're doing it because they want their society to reflect ours. And I think we need to get to the bottom of that. So I'm going to continue to push.
Can I be clear about this? The intelligence community has agreed that this has happened, and that Russia hacked into Podesta's and to the DNC,
the Democratic National Committee, where we are right now.
Yeah, and that we know. We do know that, even though President Trump won't acknowledge that. But we do know that, and here is the other part that I didn't emphasize or didn't say enough. We have to stop it from happening again.
Right, absolutely.
We can't let this happen in 2018. We can't let this happen in 2020. So it's very important that the committees investigating this and that the FBI get to the bottom of this so that we know how to protect ourselves against these cyber attacks. And the way to do it isn't to have a joint cybersecurity agreement with the people who hacked us.
Right. Maybe.
That seems kind of like a bad idea.
I'd say you're right. Hey, what else we got, Heather? We got time probably for at least one more question.
I do, and we actually have one more question and a comment. The comment comes from Tina, who's watching on Facebook, who wanted us to know that her daughter, Bridget, is working as a field organizer in Alabama this summer.
All right.
Cool.
Let's get a hand for her.
And we have one more question from Keith from Florida, who says, what can the party do to reach out to the moderates in our country?
Well, I'm one of those who doesn't believe we should go left or right or center. We should reach to the grassroots and engage the grassroots. They'll tell us what it is that they want us to do. Now, some of those folks at the grassroots might well be described as moderates, and we want to hear from them. They're a part of what we're doing, and we believe that they're critical to the success of our party, along with all the other diversity of opinion that's out there. So I'll say get involved, stay involved. Al, I think the work that you're doing in rural Minnesota rural America is really critical for the Senate caucus.
Paul Wellstone said the future belongs to those who work hard. Yeah. And that's what we have to do. We need to work hard. We can't ignore the blocking and tackling of organizing. So I want to thank all of you who are here.
Thank you,
who
guys.
Do that, and everybody out there who does it too, and make sure that you engage tomorrow on this Net Neutrality Day of Action. Incredibly important, and let's get this healthcare bill defeated. And
that's right. Let's hear it for Jessica Gonzalez of Free Press, everybody. Let's also hear it for Senator Al Franken, author of Al Franken, Giant of the Senate, just out. And let's also go to the App Store and go to Knock 10 to get all the apps you need on our ongoing DNC organizing efforts, and go to 43367 Resist to get up-to-date information on Resistance Summer. Al, we're going to be back here on Thursday night with Maxine Waters.
Jessica, give us the where to send those net neutrality comments.
Battleforthenet.com.
Okay,
Battleforthenet.com.
Very important tomorrow.
All right. So, hey, guys, that's all we have time for tonight on Democrats Live. See you Thursday night. And if you are in town or in Washington, come join our studio audience. We'd love to have you. Take care. That's all we got for tonight, everybody. Thank you very much.
Did everybody in the studio audience enjoy your lobster?